Hi and good afternoon. I thought I'd just pop on today and have a quick chat to you about Parkinson's and what we do as physiotherapists to help you manage your Parkinson's, what exercise is the most effective, and what you can do to manage your Parkinson's long term. So for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Sarah Hopkins. I'm the owner and senior physiotherapist here at Hibiscus Neuro Rehab. If you've got any questions about your Parkinson's, please don't hesitate to pop it in the comments below, and make sure you watch through to the end so you get all the tips that I'm going to share with you about managing your Parkinson's. So, it's widely documented that when we're living with Parkinson's, we need to keep active and moving and exercise. And as a blanket statement about well-being, that's fantastic. But what does it actually mean to be active, and what should you really be doing for your Parkinson's? We know that being active and exercising is really good for your heart and lungs and your metabolic system. But just having an active lifestyle is not enough to slow down the progression of your Parkinson's disease. What we're seeing coming through more and more in the literature is that exercise is having a modifiable effect in actually slowing down the progression of people's Parkinson's. But it has to be the correct sort of exercise. When we talk about the correct sort of exercise, we're talking about neuroactive exercise. Simply put, neuroactive exercise is exercise that not only promotes brain health, but it also creates neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to rewire, make new connections, and open up dormant pathways. So we talk about three lots of neuroplasticity when we are talking about exercise for Parkinson's. We believe that it has a neuroprotective effect, so actually protects the brain and keeps it active. We believe that it has, I'm getting tongue-tied, but that it creates neuroplasticity, so rewiring and new connections, and that it also creates neurorestoration, so the opening of dormant pathways. Because we know by the time that we get motor symptoms, so if people get a tremor or rigidity, around their diagnosis of Parkinson's, that there's been a 70% loss of those dopamine producing cells within the brain. And that is the time that you really need to start thinking about, well, what do I need to do to manage my Parkinson's long term? And it is something that you can do and manage long term. It does involve hard work, and it is more than just exercising. It's about actually committing to a new way of life, and what you need to do to control and keep working it for sort of 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, your Parkinson's doesn't take a day off. So it's about being neuroactive in all parts of your life, and it's working on this consistently. And it may seem like a lot of hard work, but it is achievable when you're willing to go to any length to slow down the progression of your Parkinson's disease and live your best life. As physiotherapists, we aim to teach people about the principles of being neuroactive and how to put these into your everyday life. We help you make the change needed to slow down the progression of your Parkinson's, and we show you how your activity choices need to be very deliberate to do this. When we prescribe exercise programs, we're specifically looking to teach people 7 key principles around what exercise they should be doing and how to manage their Parkinson's. So I want to go through those principles so that you've got an idea about what they are. So the first one we talk about is power. When we're working with people with Parkinson's disease, muscle weakness is not a primary deficit of Parkinson's, but weakness occurs because of disuse. So when we're actually trying to improve strength and movement, what we're wanting to do is actually generate more power. And when we talk about this, we're talking about force, how much effort we put into move, and amplitude, the size of movement. So power is the first principle, and we talk about amplitude and force. So being big and powerful. Because what we want to do is work on quality of movement and the way we move. When bradykinesia, the smallness and slowness of movement occurs, often a person with Parkinson's is moving at half the size and speed of someone who has no Parkinson's disease. And so that you need to move with power and amplitude to overcome this, to create normal movement. The second principle we talk about is high effort. So when we're actually teaching exercises, when you're doing it, you need to put in about 80% effort into that movement. What this does is it teaches you how to move and move well, because we want to overcome that slowness and smallness. Now, each person's 80% is different, and you actually need to work up to this over time. But that's what we're aiming for, is this 80% effort when we're doing our exercises. And it's definitely about quality of movement over quantity. So we're wanting almost to be only able to do 3 to 5 repetitions of an exercise that's really powerful and at that 80% effort to overcome the movement deficits. The next thing to make exercises neuroactive is to make it challenging. Exercises have to be challenging both physically, so looking at your effort and your output, and cognitively. This is because it needs to stimulate the brain. And we know that when tasks are challenging, we're having to think about it, we're actually going to create that neuroplasticity and make change. And one of the things we often tell people, if there's no challenge, there's no change. We look at it that it becomes the Goldilocks principle. If it's too easy, we're not going to be able to do it. It's not going to make any effect on the brain. If it's too hard, then it won't do anything. The brain won't learn. It needs to be just right. So you need to be doing your exercise where you do it, you can complete it, but you're having to really think about what you're doing. It has to be challenging. And this is often where we add in things like dual tasking, or new and novel exercises where you really have to think about what you're doing. So the fourth principle that we talk about is it being specific. And what this means is that it needs to be specific to your impairments. Parkinson's disease is a very individual disease. Yes, people have similar characteristics, but no one person with Parkinson's presents the same as someone else. So when we're tailoring exercise programs, it needs to be specific. So if you're having problems with your upper limb, that needs to be your focus. Or if you're having problems with your balance, that needs to be your focus. Or if it's tremor, we may need to focus more on, say, high intensity exercise. Or if it's slowness of movement, we really need to up your power principle and focus on that. But it's designing that program and making it specific to the individual so they get the changes that they need. Principle number 5 is salience. So what that is that it has to be meaningful. And the reason it has to be meaningful is because if we're working really hard, there are going to be days that you don't want to do it. There are going to be days that you think, I just don't want to do it and I can't go on. But that's when you really need to find the meaning behind why you're doing it. What are your goals? What are you doing it for? What is it that you want to achieve? Parkinson's is a condition that we can live with and live with well if we're willing to put in the work. So principle number 6 is fun. The whole idea of these principles is that you're taught them and that you're then able to put them into what you enjoy. So it could be that you really enjoy racket sports, which is really good because you can do power. They talk a lot about people doing boxing, which is challenging because it's complex. So you're adding that challenge element. There's also power and lots of fast movement in it. It could be that you enjoy dancing, which can be really good. That's why there's lots of different exercise types that work for people with Parkinson's, and we use these principles to make them neuroactive for you. The other thing is being fun releases more dopamine, and if it's fun, you're more likely to stick with it. Which brings us to the 7th principle, which is frequency. Exercise must be done on a daily basis. We actually recommend a minimum of 1 hour exercise per day, and I know the people that really do succeed do more than this. Now that may sound really daunting initially when you haven't been doing any exercise or you're only doing a little bit, but this is a target, a goal to work up to. We know the more active you are, the better the outcomes with your exercise. And the reason it needs to be daily is because Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative condition. The basal ganglia is degenerating and you are having this progressive condition. So you have to work on this regularly to make these changes. So also, in addition to making your exercises neuroactive, it is also recommended that you participate in cardiovascular exercise, whole body activities, walking, cycling, swimming, boxing, that gets you out of breath. We talk about it being high intensity exercise. So we're looking at getting your heart rate up to about 80% of heart rate max. Again, this needs to be done with qualified health professionals if you're starting a new exercise program. The reason that getting out of breath is really important is because this has been shown to have a neuroprotective effect for the brain. And that will then help further slow down the progression of Parkinson's. It also promotes a really good chemical called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like fertilizer for the brain, helping with that neuroplasticity. So I really hope you've got some really helpful tips out of today's session. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to pop them in the chat below. My first recommendation is if you are someone or you know someone living with Parkinson's, is that they see a skilled physiotherapist who deals with managing patients with newly diagnosed Parkinson's disease and Parkinson's disease, so that you can partner with them to learn the skills you need to effectively manage your condition. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them in the chat box below, or you're more than welcome to send me an email, sarah@hibiscusneurorehab.co.nz. Look out for more videos that we're going to be doing this month on Parkinson's. Hope you have a good day.